Starfleet experiment threatens to dismantle data for android research.
And what's at stake? My very life.
Hey, it's JeanLuc, and welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. The People's Starfleet Court, Judge Judy presiding, and MacLeod nowhere to be found.
I say we call MacLeod. He'll find the culprit.
Yes, I know I've been covering TNG a lot on Treknalysis lately, and I've been covering a lot of Season 2. But I've wanted to talk about Measure of a Man for a while, so here we are.
What is he? A machine. Is he? Are you sure? Yes.
Data is put on trial, but not for hustling poker games or even for storing dank memes on the Enterprise's computer, but just for existing. Ever since Encounter at Farpoint, there was always a little unease of having an android officer on board. Heck, even by Riker.
Your file says that you're a
machine, correct, sir. Does that trouble you?
To be honest, yes, a little.
Prejudice is very human.
But The Measure of a Man is the first episode that calls into question Data's rights. Is he just a machine, or is he a person? Now, I would argue that if he managed to work his way through the Academy, has a solid record, and is doing a pretty bang-up job on the Enterprise, then legally, he should be treated as a person. But then again, I'm no lawyer. I'm just a tea-drinking Trekkie with a YouTube channel. Also, didn't we already address this episodes ago?
Your service record says that you are alive. I must accept that.
Yeah, tell that to this guy. So, is Data a real boy or not? Can Captain Picard defend his rights against Riker, the unwilling prosecutor? And most importantly, will Picard be able to score a date with the judge? Listen, every lawyer has their strategies.
Now a man will shut it off.
Objection.
On Star Trek, The Next Generation.
But before I go further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about Star Trek, video games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. And if you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member. Be great to have you aboard. Now, just a quick note before I begin. There is an extended version of The Measure of a Man on the Blu-ray version of Season 2 of Star Trek The Next Generation. However, since I only own the DVDs, I'll just be discussing the original broadcast version. There's about 13 minutes of extra footage in the extended version that I'm still open to talking about, but for another video. Okay, now on with the show. It's poker night for some of our main cast members. And the little people.
Aren't you one of the little people?
My luck is always lousy unless I start the dealers right.
Oh, honey.
It's the radiation poisoning.
Remove him.
I'm not going anywhere with you.
She has canceled the wedding. She what?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
I do like these little scenes of the crew playing poker when they're off duty. You see them throughout the show, and it helps show that our beloved characters are people who need to chill out every so often.
You must play poker, Commander. Poker. Is it a game of some sort?
Data is starting to pick up the game of poker, and while he's familiar with the rules and probabilities of the game, he's still struggling with some of the subtleties of poker.
Is that what is known as a poker face?
Are you playing or not?
Meanwhile, Captain Picard is taking up an entire table at Space Starbucks with a single cup of coffee. Or tea. He is more of a tea man. Probably about to set up his laptop, refuse to put on headphones, and sit there all day with one cup. But then, a sexy, familiar face walks in.
If we went around all these people, you know what I would like to do?
Bust a chair across my teeth.
After that.
This is Captain Philippa Louvois, presumably a fellow French native, but with an American accent. How do all these French characters have every accent except French? So JeanLuc and Phil here are, I'm assuming, exes? They have this weird chemistry that's both flirtatious and adversarial. And it's not even just in this one scene, it's the entire episode. These two would probably be that couple that's clearly attracted to each other, but they're always arguing every time you see them.
You're still a pompous ass and a damn sexy man.
Whoa! Captain Picard still got it going on. Some years ago, Philippa prosecuted Picard at his court-martial for the loss of the Stargazer, his old ship. And apparently, she enjoyed her job a little too much. So much so that Picard's still mad about it. Since then, she's left Starfleet and come back, but now she's the new head of Starfleet's new Judge Advocate General office in the sector. Honestly, that would have made a decent Star Trek spin-off, especially with all the courtroom dramas Trek does. Ah well, we'll just have to be content with Philippa and her
Damn sexy man.
probably undressing the poor man with her eyes. Well, let's go ahead and ruin the moment with Commander Bruce Maddox, who goes on a tour of the Enterprise and uncomfortably stares at Data. You know, Data claims he has no emotions, but he still felt those eyes on him.
Maddox is here to work on your android. Please take care of him.
Jeez, I already knew the guy was evil, but those ominous synthesizers. Like, crap, that sounded like it came out of the Terminator soundtrack. Only Data isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Attack me.
Alright, so who is this guy? Well, Maddox is a fan of the work of Dr. Sung, you know, the guy who created Data. But he also opposed Data's entry into Starfleet Academy, saying that Data isn't sentient. So, what's he doing here now?
I am going to disassemble Data.
Oh, hell no!
No disassemble!
The main reason he wants to take Data apart like a VCR is because he wants to study it. Dump its memory into a computer so he can analyze it. Notice how he always refers to Data as it.
I've wanted to understand it. I must disassemble and study it, evaluating the condition of its current software.
Of course, Data's got questions about the procedure, namely how he's going to get out of it alive.
I will find the answer once I examine the filament links in your anterior cortex.
Well, that's reassuring, because when I go in for surgery, that's exactly what I want to hear my doctor say. I'll know more once I cut you open. Now, right off the bat, Maddox isn't a likable character. And interestingly enough, it's for similar reasons why a lot of fans hated Dr. Pulaski. And I say this as someone who grew to like Pulaski over the years. Data is a well-liked character. His quest to discover his humanity, even though he can never fully achieve it, resonates with fans. He has a sense of wonder and an innocence that's endearing. So when someone comes along and is straight up rude or insulting to him, it comes across like someone kicking a puppy. Pulaski mispronouncing Data as Data, calling him it, and dismissing his understanding of human intuition not long after she was introduced, turned a lot of fans against her. And all of that was spread out over a couple of episodes. Maddox is all that and worse, all in one episode. Not to mention, kinda looks like he's trying to grow an evil mustache. Never pick on Data! Picard understandably refuses Maddox's request. Data's a valued member of the crew, who millions of fans will mourn after Star Trek Nemesis. Maddox, however, pulls a total move and already had Data reassigned under his command.
We have a problem.
No JeanLuc! Picard discusses the situation with Data, saying that he has to consider Starfleet's interests and the possibility that Maddox could be right. Kind of a 180 there, JeanLuc. Data, however, hits our most British French captain with some logic concerning our good friend Geordi and his far superior cybernetic eyes.
Then why are not all human officers required to have their eyes replaced with cybernetic implants?
So Picard gets to work. Or starts working it.
My God. Twice in as many days.
So the damn sexy man is all, these orders are bullshit. Well, okay, he calls it gobbledygook, but I'm paraphrasing here.
This gobbledygook.
Data's a valued member of my crew. He's got rights. These procedures could kill him. Stop these orders.
All this passion over a machine?
Actually, that's kind of a big deal for Picard. Granted, this is still early Picard, and he did do more yelling during the early seasons, but he's still on the more stoic side, even in season 2. He's able to keep his cool in some high-pressure situations better than most. But mess with a member of his crew? Oh, hell no. Also, girl, this is not the time to coquettishly tease the
Damn sexy man. So you came to me for help.
You're the JAG officer for this sector.
Yeah, Picard's clearly not in the mood at the moment.
Not in the mood.
And besides, Philippa isn't much help. Data can either submit to the procedure or resign, so he opts to resign. No way is he donating his body to science fiction.
Time to start packing.
Dude, that's not okay. Do you always walk into someone's quarters without knocking and start going through their things? What, were you born in a barn? So Maddox came by to try to convince Data into the procedure that could end in his death or turn him into, well, a robot. But Data points out that while the facts of his memories would be preserved, he would lose the essence of the experience.
The substance, the flavor of the moment could be lost.
That's actually a very human thing for Data to say. There's no logical reason for Data to hold on to those experiences outside of the facts. He just wants them because they contributed to who he is, and he doesn't want to lose that. But Maddox doesn't care. Data's going to submit to the procedure.
I have resigned from Starfleet.
Resign? You can't resign.
Yep. Maddox is going to preserve Data even if it kills him. You know, this would be the start of a great 80s action show. He was an android and good at his job, but a cracked commander tried to submit him to a procedure to destroy his very brain. He promptly escaped in a stolen runabout and roams the galaxy, helping small-town planets fight off biker gangs and greedy politicians, while still wanted by the organization he devoted his life to. Former Commander Data, champion of the innocent, the helpless, and the powerless, is out to prove his rights to those who seek to remove them. Commander Maddox, the man tasked with apprehending and destroying him. Star Trek Renegade. Written by Stephen J. Cannell. Anyways, Commander Maddox tries to stop Data's resignation, which shouldn't be that hard to do. Are any Starfleet resignations taken seriously?
Then I resign my commission as a Starfleet officer. Request permission to return to duty, sir.
Granted.
He also argues that his experiment could result in a leap in technology. We could build enough datas to have one on every starship to throw into any number of dangerous situations. He can't be allowed to resign. But as Picard points out, Data still has rights.
Rights. I'm sick to death of hearing about rights.
Oh, how very Starfleet of you.
You talk to me about rights?
Heck, Philippa points out that there are laws in the Federation, and she probably should have kicked Maddox out of her office at this point. But what about the Enterprise's computer? Can it refuse a refit? After all, it's a machine just like Data.
That's an interesting point.
And now we have the crux of the episode. Is Data property? Meanwhile, the crew is throwing Data a going-away party, with Data unwrapping his presents in a very Data way. Carefully without ripping it because the paper can be reused again. That's very conscious of him. Of course, it's not good enough for Wesley.
Data, you're missing the point.
It's also kind of interesting that Pulaski is attending this party. Probably after the events of Unnatural Selection, she started to appreciate Data a little more and sees him as a fellow officer.
As androids go, you're in a class by yourself.
She also has a little friendly banter with Worf, which is interesting considering Worf later says he doesn't like doctors.
I do not like doctors. Any doctors.
Gee, I wonder who screwed that one up.
It's not too late to change your mind.
Meanwhile,
I have completed my research.
And I find Captain Picard guilty of being a damn sexy man.
Damn sexy man.
Philippa declares Data is Starfleet property and therefore can't resign or refuse to cooperate. Picard challenges the ruling, so a hearing needs to take place. But since the starbase is pretty new and understaffed, Picard will defend Data while the prosecution falls to Riker, who clearly doesn't want to be involved and has a clear conflict of interest since Data is his friend. Nope, he's not doing it.
Then I will rule summarily based on my findings. Data is a toaster.
Toast now.
Basically, no one's happy. Data's being forced to stay, and Riker is being forced to prosecute him.
No further questions.
So the hearing starts, and Riker calls Data to the stand, and Data, why are you sitting in a very unhuman fashion? You're not helping yourself. Now, remember how Riker didn't want to prosecute Data, even to the point that he had to be forced to do it, and required to do a good job of condemning his friend?
If I find for 1 minute that you are not doing your best, I will end this then and there.
Well, Riker's arguments are a little too easy to refute, and everyone acts like each argument is another nail in the coffin. Except they aren't! What, Dr. Sung built Data? Yeah, okay, but we already knew he was a machine. Nobody's disputing that. Oh, Data can make insane calculations in a short amount of time? What, so you can be too smart to be considered an individual? You have to be a certain amount of dumb, otherwise you're property of Starfleet? Here, Data, bend this steel bar for everyone. Hey, you know what? Worf, come here and bend this bar. Heck, even Picard challenged the steel bar test because it's dumb.
I'm afraid I can't agree, Captain.
Why not? What does this even prove? You can be too strong to make your own decisions? None of this is relevant.
Irrelevant! Irrelevant!
I request to be allowed to remove the commander's hand.
Oh, we're leaving out the amputees now? Well, I better go inform Shran, who lost an antenna, Nog, who lost his leg in the line of duty, and even Luke Skywalker, because apparently they don't have rights anymore. What the hell even are these arguments?
And now a man will shut it off.
Really, Riker? I could bonk you on the head like the Three Stooges and knock you out too. Like, what does this even prove? I mean, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but all of Riker's arguments are really awful.
Pinocchio is broken. Its strings have been cut.
You know, this could be the start of Data's villain arc.
Wait! Pinocchio! Somebody stop squirming!
Picard calls a recess to talk things through with Guinan, because the other alternative is Deanna and, well, he actually wants to win. Guinan observes that if this ruling goes through and Maddox gets lucky, the Federation could create a whole army of Datas to do all the dirty and or dangerous work. In fact, it's happened on many planets throughout history.
He's talking about slavery.
I think that's a little harsh.
It's time to get this hearing back on track. Picard calls Data to the stand and starts showing the crew his personal belongings. Medals, a book, Tasha Yar. And I like this because it shows that these aren't just objects to Data. They mean something. If he was simply a machine, they would just be objects, but he associates an experience with them, which is a nice callback to Data's conversation with Maddox about the essence of his memories.
Why this person?
I would prefer not to answer that question, sir.
Because I don't think Tasha would mind.
She said that it never happened.
It never happened.
Picard then calls Maddox to the stand as a hostile witness.
You think I'm hostile? Now wait till you see me tonight.
Maddox has to define what is required for sentience, which he lists as intelligence, self-awareness, and consciousness.
Prove to the court that I am sentient.
This is absurd.
Why? Listen, if you're convinced Data isn't sentient, then you must have a way to determine that, or can at least cite sources to back up your claim. Otherwise, it's just your opinion, and you don't have much of a leg to stand on. You claim you're a scientist, but I don't know, saying it's absurd to prove something doesn't sound very science-y. But okay, we've established Data is intelligent. Heck, so intelligent, Riker made an entire argument about how that qualifies him as property. You're just too smart for us, Data! But what about self-awareness? Data, quick, what are you doing right now?
I'm taking part in a legal hearing to determine my rights and status.
And what's at stake?
My right to choose. Perhaps my very life.
He's even aware of his own mortality! Shut up, Nemesis, I'm not talking about you right now!
You see, he's met 2 of your 3 criteria for sentience, so what if he meets the 3rd?
Objection, Your Honor, badgering the witness. Picard gets the last word in true Picard speech fashion. Eventually, someone is going to be able to replicate Data's brain, and what they decide here in this court will have massive repercussions and determine the rights of other beings like Data. Oh, JeanLuc, you don't know how right you're gonna be.
Their rights and privileges in our society have been defined. I helped define them.
Your Honor, Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits, waiting.
Philippa waxes on about how this entire case is more of a discussion for saints and philosophers, but she still has to make a legal decision. Is Data a machine? Yes, which everyone agreed on. But is he the property of Starfleet? No.
Number 5 is alive.
But now the question is raised about whether Data has a soul. And I do like that the episode leaves it up to the viewer's interpretation and beliefs. But in the meantime, legally, Data is a real boy with rights and is free to choose to explore those higher questions. And Data's first order of business is to tell Maddox to go pound sand, though he's open to working with him in the future. Which which will basically result in him sending mundane letters of his day-to-day life.
Record entry for transmission to Commander Bruce Maddox.
Maddox finally calls Data he, and Picard manages to take the cute judge out to dinner.
Dinner.
You buying?
Money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
There's a party in 10 Forward, and everyone's invited, but Riker disinvited himself. He came so close to condemning Data to live in a computer under Maddox's command, and I doubt it even has great games on it. But Data rightfully points out that if he didn't prosecute him, Philippa would have ruled against him, so ultimately, Riker saved him.
You're a wise man, my friend. Not yet, sir. But with your help, I am learning.
And that was The Measure of a Man. Trek has its share of courtroom dramas, and this is one of the best ones. Even though I would argue that Riker's arguments were rather paper thin. It also does something that Star Trek does best. While the episode clearly wants you to believe Data should have rights, the ultimate question of whether Data has a soul is up to the viewer. It's not telling you what to think, but instead, it's giving you something to think about. It wraps up those larger questions in a very engaging way. Now, as great of an episode as this is, because nothing is perfect, Dr. Pulaski is greatly underutilized considering her greatest story arc is moving beyond seeing Data as a machine. This episode happens not that long after Unnatural Selection, where Data expresses concern over her well-being, and they start to have more of an understanding between them. Heck, this episode could have given Pulaski some much-needed redemption in the fan base if she were to come to Data's defense, or even have it out with Maddox. But nevertheless, The Measure of a Man is understandably one of TNG's greatest episodes. There's not a whole lot of action or fancy effects, it's just a great script, great actors, and makes the viewer think for themselves. There's not much more you can ask of a Star Trek episode, and I like that. So what do you think of The Measure of a Man? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think Riker made good arguments during the trial? What did you think of Picard's arguments? Did Maddox have any point, or does he simply have no regard for anyone's rights? And what are some of your favorite courtroom dramas in Trek? Please, leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
Data, you're missing the point.